Hi, Rory. Just firstly, I'm wondering how the test went. What were you expecting? How did it feel? How did it go?
I had no idea what to expect actually. I'd heard rumours about it went quite far up the nostrils. So as you can see, my nose is reasonably bent. One side was more than fine. What they do, they just grab a swab, put it straight up, and it feels like it's back in your throat. But yeah, one side was really nice and easy, but this bent side, I think they ran into a couple of bumps and that kind of thing there. So they had to go a little harder on that side. But look, it's just something we're going to have to do, get used to. Price, we just make sure we do, just so we can play football and keep everyone safe. I think, yeah, everyone's going to be more than fine doing it.
Keep going, Vic.
Beautiful. All right, sorry. Now, I was just going to ask also, obviously that's one of the conditions for a restart to play. One of the other ones is obviously the government's still trying to negotiate with the AFL about fly in, fly out to avoid a hub. How keen are you for the AFL and the state government to sort something out to avoid a hub? If one of the conditions were to be that you're at home, like it has to be a clean, say from the airport to your home, to the bus, the footy club, that's it, you can't go out and about. How would you feel about that? And just, yeah, how keen you are for them to sort something out?
Yeah, it's certainly a great position for the AFL to be in, and they're doing absolutely everything they can at the moment just to ensure that we do get a season up and going. So it's an incredibly tough position for them to try and deal with all different state governments. So I get that part, and I get the government part around trying to keep people safe. And I mean, here in SA, we've had a really low number of cases for quite some time now. So that's a really positive sign. So I'm hoping all we can do is wait, really. There's so much speculation. We might be in hubs, we might be flying in, fly out. But until there's just a concrete ruling and a set way we're going to approach this season, I haven't been too stressed on what may or may not happen, because it's just hypotheticals, really. And I've just been trying to, I suppose, stay as positive as I can. And the second part of that question was, the second part, I'm sorry.
Just if the best scenario was that to do a fly in, fly out, you'd have to go just literally footy club, airport, home. No, I guess not visiting, no one in your house, no cafes, catching up with mates. Would you be, happy to do that to avoid the hub situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's a small price to pay to make sure we do get a season up and going, and that's why I think the AFL will come down really hard on anyone that breaches these rules, because we are, as an industry, asking for exemption a little bit, I suppose, to the rest of the community. If we can do everything else right and go above and beyond some other measures and make sure we ensure that everyone stays safe and healthy, I think that's the utmost priority in all of this, is to make sure we keep everyone safe and healthy.
Just one last one. If an agreement can't be reached with our government and they say, no exemptions, you've got to be the same as everybody else, you're going to have to go away in a hub to Melbourne for, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. Now you've got a little boy and a wife. How would you cope with that news?
Yeah, it's a really tough question, because as a footy club, I think we love the opportunity, love the challenge. We've got a really young group that I think could gain a lot of benefits from spending that amount of time together as a group. Would certainly help making sure this group gels, spend some time with each other. As Biggs would know, the more time you spend away with each other, like, you do solidify a really solid relationship and bond with those guys. So that would be one huge positive. But yeah, from my own personal view, it would be incredibly hard. I mean, I've made mention of this a few weeks back, but it would be hard leaving your son and wife behind. But I think the AFL will make sure there's measures around that we can still see our family and still have them come along if it does go down that path. But that's the whole thing at the moment. We're still talking hypotheticals and if this all happens. So I'll certainly think more about that when the time comes and once the season's a bit more mapped out.
Would there be any scenario where you wouldn't go to a hub if your wife couldn't come, or if it was for 10 weeks or a really long time?
Again, I haven't thought really around that because it's just still hypotheticals, and it's if it happens, I'm still hopeful that the season may go ahead a little differently. So I suppose we'll just wait and see.
Cool, thank you.
I was waiting for Shuts to nominate someone, but can I just ask a question, Rory?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just on that Hubs thing, has the AFL indicated to you guys if West Coast, Freo, Adelaide and Port Adelaide have to go into Hubs, you'll be able to take your families?
I'm presuming that would be the case. I'm not entirely sure yet. I think there's still so much up in the air. I mean, hopefully we don't go down that path, but if we do, I'd imagine because it's not just players. I mean, it's staff as well. There's AFL people who work at the AFL. I'm sure all have families. It's not just players. I think that's one thing people quickly forget. There's coaches, admin staff, AFL staff as well that all have families. So I'm sure they'd want to make sure that's an option. But I suppose time will tell. We'll wait and see.
And one more.
Sorry, Pete. Keep it going,
Yeah.
Pete. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, you're right. Just one more about, obviously, Adelaide, Ben Hart suspended and the players receiving a suspended 1 week suspension for the training breach. What was your reaction when all that happened? And do you feel like the footy club needs to do some work to win back the respect of the footy community after that, Rory?
Sorry, you just broke up at the start of that.
What was your reaction to that when you heard about it? And do you feel as the skipper of the footy club that the club needs to do some work to win back the respect of the footy community?
So are you talking about the sanction, or are you talking about just
just the incident and the breach and the reaction to it?
Well, first of all, we just wanted to find out exactly what happened. But then for us, maybe it's like we had approval from SAPOL and approval from the AFL to go up there and train in those groups. And it was unfortunate that we broke the AFL laws on the social distancing part, and that was probably the key takeout for this is the AFL are doing everything they can to try and get this season up and going. And as I mentioned earlier, we need to go above and beyond as a community and as players, coaches, everyone. We need to go above and beyond what some of these regulations are to try and help that and try and help, I suppose, their negotiation with government. So I do get the speculation around it and the reason why we want to hold ourselves to a higher regard. So I think that's where that lands. I'm not sure. Was there anything else to that?
No, that's all right. And last one, do you expect to be training back on Monday?
I'm not sure. I mean, the COVID testing we did today, I mean, that's positive signs. I think that training could be on the horizon. So I'd love to be back training with some mates, whether that be less numbers than 45. Who knows? It'd probably be around the 10 or something mark. But yeah, I would love to be back as soon as possible and be able to have that locker room chat again, be able to see a few more mates and just be around people. I think that's something we're all missing at the moment, isn't it?
Thanks, mate.
Neil, do you want to have a crack?
Sorry, Rory, just to take you.
Rory, can you hear me?
That's better.
Just to take you back to the Barossa incident, and the question I wanted answered was in terms of what happened. Do you think that the SA government's lost a bit of trust, given what the Crows have done? They lost a bit of trust in what the AFL was trying to do. Is that the real danger?
So if they've lost trust in what the AFL is trying to do, is that what you think?
If they've lost trust because of what the Crows did, they've lost trust in the AFL being able to ensure that it does what it wants to do with protocols. Do you think that hasn't helped the negotiations?
Oh, look, I mean, it's certainly been highly publicised, which, I mean, I can't speak on behalf of SA Health or the government in that regard, but I suppose SA, as I mentioned earlier, we've had a long period of time without too many cases. I mean, there's been one in about 2 weeks, which is a great result for South Australia as a whole. So there is. I understand the reasoning around why we want to keep it safe and make sure we limit the spread of this virus, because as we've seen in other countries, it can spread really quickly. So we've owned that this is a mistake on our behalf, and we want to make sure again that the community learns from this, and we make sure we still take this very seriously, because we're still in a pretty risky period, I would have thought, in terms of spread of this virus.
Just on football, how do you feel you are set for the idea of contact again, to actually play the game and to get that physical contact, which obviously you haven't had for like 2 months?
I've been craving physical contact. I mean, it's part of the game that I certainly love the most, and that's the part of the game you miss the most. I think that competitive aspect. I'm positive all players across the AFL would have kept fit and healthy. I mean, you guys would all find the same thing. You need to stay active and exercise for your own mental sanity. So, I mean, I've seen more people run along the Esplanade down the beach than I ever have in my life before. So I have no reservations that the whole AFL industry is fit, well, strong, but it's that physical side that you do miss. So I'm sure whenever we go back to training, that little pre-season period we have is going to be, I'm sure we're going to be wanting to do a little bit of contact work, because that's probably the one bit that your body needs to adjust. And it wouldn't take too long. It'd take a couple of weeks or a few weeks, maybe at the most.
Do you want to have, sorry, Neil, you're right.
Last one. That then would make it the best pre-season of your life, right? If it's a 2-week period, that's done and dusted.
We've been in pre-season for a while now, basically. We only had with one game. So, look, I mean, as long as everyone had the same sort of build-up into round one, I think everyone will be ready to play. And everyone's already itching to play, absolutely.
Should we go Neil from ESPN this time?
Beauty. Thanks, mate. Can you hear me, Rory?
Yep.
Thanks, mate. Just a quick one, a quick one first up. Have you spoken to the Players Association yet today? And if so, what was the gist of those chats?
Well, that's something I just wanted to go into, mate. That's those chats with the AFLPA are just for the players only. So I'm sure you'll come out either from them or the AFL in probably later today or tomorrow.
Fair enough. The other one was a bit more broad. You've been, isolated for so long, and you're obviously trying to be staying fit. But what else does the club have you doing? Are you tooling up on anything else, or are you trying to dive deeper into your game plans and get into the book, so to speak?
Yeah, that's actually been something we wanted to focus on, was how we could best utilise this time for our group. And as I mentioned earlier, we've got a young group and with a couple of Matty Nix, Adam Kelly, a couple of senior heads in there that are really trying to establish relationships with everyone. So we've certainly used this time to try and do that, learn more a bit about each other. We have weekly Zoom meetings, either as a line group, leaders group, as a team. We've been doing weekly cook-off class, which you might have seen little bits and pieces. For some reason, Tex cooked an omelette at night. We couldn't quite figure that one out, but the rest of us have been cooking proper meals for dinner. We've had quiz nights, just really been trying to engage everyone and make sure you still see people and still have that interaction, because that's probably the thing people miss the most. And I think that's really healthy for people to have, is that social interaction.
Just following up on that, Rory, in terms of trying to learn or establish a game plan or a style of play, what are the coaches using this time to make you, or to give you enough resources to learn how to play? Because obviously you can't train together, so it's impossible to do it in person.
Yeah, it is. I caught up with Nixie on my own the other day, and he's tried to catch up with like a player on their own for like a couple of weeks, and just have a chat through how you can, or what they can do and what they can do to get better. Certainly as a leadership group, we've tried to catch up with a lot of younger guys and mix up who we're training with at different times, to have those exact chats. We reviewed the Sydney game. That was going back probably 4 weeks ago. And there's some great learnings out of that game for us, especially as a midfield group. Sydney did touch us up in that game. So we've reviewed that as a line group. And we'll have some really, really clear actions out of that going forward, which, again, if we didn't have this 6-week period, we wouldn't have normally had the time to review that so strongly.
Thanks, mate.
Richard L.
Yeah, Rory, how hard is it in your first year as captain, to not have that hands-on influence and have that impact you obviously want to have? How frustrating has that been for you?
We've had so much time already as a pre-season, as a build-up.
Yeah.
We've laid a lot of really good foundations as a whole leadership group. But the thing I just miss the most is that interaction with blokes. And I see a lot of positives out of this time. From a personal point of view, I've been able to spend a lot of time with my little fella, a lot of time with family. But again, it's a lot of time on the phone, FaceTime, Zooms, having these conversations and probably diving a bit deeper into the conversations than you normally would at a footy club. This time of year, it'd be like round 7 or 8, and you'd be so focused on going from game to game. You'd be worried about the win-loss part.
Yep.
But at the moment, we don't have that stress. So the conversations, they're a lot deeper than they would have been during a season, because the time you'd be planning, weights, you might touch off on how your game went, but then you don't really dive in deep to what drives guys or how you can learn through this period too. So I've certainly found it a massive positive for me as a leader and our whole group, just to try and understand each other a little better.
With the ISO breach, were you surprised by the extent and the harsh criticism you got, particularly from across the border, saying you should lose draft picks, but also saying that the club as a whole was almost plotting to try and bend the rules and gain a competitive advantage? Were you surprised or disappointed by that?
The first part to it, we had written approval from SAPOL and the AFL to do exactly what we did. So there was no trying to bend rules. There was no deceiving anyone. It was just, that was going to be the best way for our guys to isolate them. As I mentioned earlier, we totally accept that we breached some of the AFL rules and that social distancing guideline, which, we totally own. But I've mentioned this already, the AFL are doing an enormous amount of work to really try and make sure the industry gets up and going. And we've all got a part to play in that, from players, coaches, media, support staff have got to abide by these rules. And I'm positive going forward, there'll be some strict rules around what we can and can't do to make sure we ensure that this game gets up and going. So I think, again, I'll take a positive out of it. There's a lesson to be learned from our mistake for everyone, is to make sure we adhere to these guidelines, because it's going to be important for the whole industry.
And what do you think the general mindset of the players will actually be like when you finally get to do your fly in, fly out and start playing? What can we expect then?
From the fly in, fly out?
What's the mindset the players going to be like? We expect you to be doing fly in, fly out, and what can we expect from the team?
Guys will be excited to play, first of all. I remember when I first played, I think it was a pre-season game. We used to fly in and fly out day of the game, and I loved it. I reckon some guys will be excited. Some guys might take a little bit longer to loosen up than others. You just do what you got to do in these times. Everyone's going to be doing it. It means we can play a season. I think that's the key thing to all this. We make sure we do it in a safe way, and that'll be the safest way for teams to travel, to fly in, fly out, get home, and make sure you go between the footy club and home. And you just keep things safe that way. And that way we still get a season underway. We still keep everyone in the community safe as well.
Thanks, mate.
Max Burford.
Hey, Rory. Everyone's pretty much asked all the good ones. Just wanted to know, have you had a flu jab?
Yes.
And are there any reservations from anyone that you know of about getting flu jabs if you had to get them?
Not that I know. Sorry, mate.
Is that a strange one for you to be talking about? I know that the Queensland boys have everyone in the NRL, AFL in Queensland have to have a jab to play up there. Is it just a strange thing for you to even be considering as a footballer at this time of year?
No, we always get the flu jab. It normally happens after probably round 2 after the game. Just come off the track, straighten the arm, and you're done. But I mean, everyone's got individual beliefs, but I haven't heard any different from that.
Beauty. Thank you, mate.
Steve Larkin.
You're on mute, Steve.
Steve, you all right? Right, we'll keep moving along.
Steve.
Theo Theodoropoulos.
Hello, Rory. Who did you have your jab with today? Who was in the room with you?
No, it wasn't jab today. It was the
your swab.
Swab.
Yeah.
No one was in the room with me. There's just the 4 lovely ladies that have been kind enough to do the COVID testing for us. And then, just myself, walked straight out. It was a pretty swift operation, actually.
Did you see any of your other teammates after they'd had a jab, had a swab? Just trying to understand who took it better than most.
I watched Tex walk in, and I tried to word him up that it was super painful, but he wasn't doing it, so I was just trying to stitch him up. But no, I didn't, mate, because it literally was. I mean, we walked straight past you, but it was file in, file out, and one by one, and that was sort of all it was.
We saw some guys walking out, rubbing their eyes and holding their nose. It looked a little painful. When are you told of your results, assuming you're all clear, but when do you officially get told?
I didn't even ask that question. I presume in about 3 days or something like that, maybe. Or 2 days, I don't know. I presume by the weekend.
Yep. So everyone will get told before they can return to training. With Hardy, mate, what sort of void does he leave for you?
Yeah, massive with Hardy. Hardy's one of, Big Nose played with him. He's the best team man for the Adelaide Crows. Held in such high regard as a player. But I've had him coach now at 2 stages of my career, and I'll never forget Benny Hart saying to me that the club always comes first. And that's been his attitude. I was chatting to him the other day, and he was really pleased that players had only got the suspended sanction. And he's just such a selfless man. So we certainly feel for Hardy. And we'll wrap our arms around him, but he's a positive, bubbly, funny man. And our forwards will miss him for 6 weeks. But, I mean, again, we'll have to just adjust. And we've got some senior heads down that forward line, the big Texan and Tommy Lynch, and might have to take the reins for a little bit.
Have you chatted to him since the incident?
To Hardy?
No, just since the breach was announced and the suspensions. Have you dropped him a line to say you're thinking of him, or?
Yeah, I've had a chat to him, yeah.
My other question was, some of the criticism which Richard touched on earlier was a few experts have said that they don't believe it was an accident, that they can comprehend that players can just randomly come and have a kick in a group. Almost the insinuation that it was a plotted, deliberate act. How do you respond to that? Do you take that personally, that your club would be accused of doing something like that?
Again, everyone will have an opinion. Some people, I've learned just to listen to the ones that matter. And I mean, we know as a footy club, like as I said before, we had written approval from both SAPOL and the AFL to train. And SA laws at that time said you can train in groups of 8, but that wasn't an AFL obviously regulation or one we had to abide by. So I think that's where the confusion probably comes from for some of these reporters.
Thanks, mate.
Cal Timmy.
Hey, Rory, just on that, I know Matthew Lloyd was vocal earlier this week in regards to Tom Doedee and believing that maybe as a member of the leadership group, he should have stepped in at some point. What's your take on that? Is that a fair criticism?
Well, again, it's easy to reflect on now, but look, without sort of rehashing over the stuff that, I mean, the AFL's already investigated the whole situation, and like we clearly just made a mistake. You can't just pin this on one person. So as a whole footy club, not Ben Hart, not Tom Duday, not anyone else, as a whole footy club, we made a mistake, and there was a couple of mistakes made, and without going into it all, it's just it's silly to try and point the blame on one person.
Just final one on that. Almost all the players were at the start of their career. Younger players, obviously coming back from stints back home or their original states. What's their overriding emotion, do you think, generally, of being implicated in this?
I reckon there would have been a few emotions for a lot of the boys. I mean, obviously, early on, it would have been a bit unknown, a bit of frustration, or have we done something wrong? What did we do wrong? And just waiting for the sanction. There was a few days I had to wait on that and stress on that. But in speaking to them now, because they're up there, they can only train on their own, which is different to how everyone else can train at the moment. So they're not really allowed to cross paths with one another. So right now, it amazed me how positive they were. Everyone up there, they've been managing to find a positive in a pretty tough situation for some of these young boys when they're used to being around one another. And they're staying busy. They've got a few little games going on up there. They've got some competition. They're Zooming each other. A lot of them love their video games as well. So I think most of them took a PS4 up and they've been playing Call of Duty or something. So, yeah, they're finding ways to stay really positive in a hard situation at the moment.
Thanks, mate.
Mark Bickley.
Hey, Rory, how are you?
Good two-timer. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Hey, yeah, two-part question first up. You started the season one coach down. You've got Paul Thomas and Marty Matten who are no longer there, and now Ben Hart not there. Are you worried that the lack of coaching resource with a young group? And secondly, does that mean that blokes like yourself and Tex and Tom Lynch and Daniel Taylor have to do a bit more?
Not concerned about that at all, mate. We had a long pre-season where we were able to really understand Nixie's game style and philosophies. And we do. We've got a few senior blokes down the spine of the ground. As you mentioned, Tex, Tom, Tales, myself, Brody Smith. There's a lot of guys that have been around for long enough and they have a great understanding of how football should be played. And guys, like we've had a lot of time to, I suppose, get our heads around what the rest of the season is going to look like. So guys are more than ready to step up and start to take the reins as almost player coaching, mate, which is going back to a bit of local days. But there's some guys there as well. It's a great opportunity for them to practice. A lot of guys want to be coaches when they leave. So this is a great opportunity for them to step up.
Another interesting scenario that some players are going to find themselves in with the state league, being, I guess, not available to Crows and Power. If you're number, 30 up on the list, there's every chance you might not play much footy this year. How do you keep those guys engaged and developing and feeling like they really want to be a part of this?
It's a good question, and it's something we'll have to work through all year, I think. I don't have the exact answer at the moment, but I think going forward, we're just going to have to make sure that our training standards are really high, but then we can also engage these guys training. Well, obviously, when we can, try and mix up different groups, or if we're only allowed in 10s or 15, I don't know what the number will be, but we'll make sure we continually rotate these guys through and spend some time with the older guys, spend some time with the younger guys to help their development. Hopefully there's a way around it where maybe we can play each other's seconds teams. Who knows? I'm not sure what it will look like going forward.
And last one, in isolation, many people have committed to taking up a new skill. Have you committed to anything like that? Guitar or something?
Yeah, I used to play the guitar growing up, so that's back out and sitting amongst Sonny's toys. So I try and play a couple of songs most mornings. The ukulele.
What's your go-to song?
I'm actually trying to just make a couple up myself at the moment. But the worst is SingStar told me I was tone deaf, and my vocal cords are hideous, mate. So Belinda's like, that song was so nice until you opened your mouth. And I was like, well, I can't sing. So, there's that part. What else? I mean, guys are certainly getting good at their gaming, as you've probably seen across the whole AFL. Golf. Golf's another big one. Brad Crouch, I think, is into single digits, which is a good sign for his golf game. So, there's certainly been ways that guys have kept themselves busy. I've gotten back into my cooking too with a bit more time. So Belinda's certainly enjoyed that.
Yeah, good luck, mate.
Drew Jones. You still there, Drew?
Had enough.
If not, Steve Larkin, we'll give you another shot. Steve, you there?
Have you got a notepad and pen, Steve?
You there, Steve?
Write down your question.
He's having some audio problems by the looks of it. His thumbs down he's given us. Hey, guys, is there anything other questions, given we've gone through the list? Has anyone else got anything else to follow up on off the back of all those?
Can I just ask one more? Sorry, Rory. But if the governments give approval for clubs to go back to full contact training and you've still got teammates in isolation, would you have any issue with getting that up and going while you've still got teammates in quarantine?
Our guys will be out next Monday or Tuesday, I think. That'd be the 2 weeks. So I can't imagine anything changing until that point anyway. So I think we should be